Monday night on Twitch for Green Oaks Gaming. Hello, I am Joe, and tonight is all about the journey that we take exploring game worlds. You can see on the big screen here that I've got a lot of miniatures and a lot of items, partly because this last weekend I was at the Reaper Kickstarter party and did not spend a whole lot of time here in the studio for my regular Saturday painting. So I'm going to move some things around here now that we are nearly, I say nearly, caught up. Let's get some light on the subject. Get our area nice and clean, because we have a lot to talk about for our level 1 to 20 campaign that we're building and exploring. Now, I talked about being able to do the map ahead of time. However, I was not able to get that done, obviously, as I was not in or near the studio. I was not able to flesh out the map like I had hoped. So maybe at some point in my downtime this week, I will be able to get that done. No promises. There, of course, is our world map. We are going to be locating this game right in here, in this area here. So Vorland is the continent. The campaign that we're going to be running, we've called Whispers of the Lost. Now, we've already gone through all of this on camera, so we're not going to rehash it all, but we will have to refer back to our one-page sheet. And this is really just a one-page sheet that I then have some area for notes that I can keep adding on to. And really, with the story that I have in mind, I've already built a lot of it into it. But now we need to start putting, this is where the rubber really hits the road, because we're going to start putting in some aspects of actual game mechanics into it. And really, for our town, we've got the port city of Herons Bay, and then Golden Gate is where we're going to have the PCs go through that first tier. We put in there clearing the sewers, clearing the canals, clearing the woods, and clearing the hills. Obviously not in that exact order. We still have to decide once we get the map how we're going to do it. But not only that, as we work on our campaign builder, this is a campaign planner tool which I use in all of my campaigns, and it is available on my Patreon. If you're a patron, you can download this for free. It's just a PDF that you can download and print. It basically goes through and shows you by tier, by level, what the challenge rating is for an average party of 6. So I generally run at my tables 6 PCs. I can adjust up and down based on who's able to make it, or if we have any adjustments that we make in there. But basically, this breaks down and shows me what are the numbers and quantities of CR monsters for easy, medium, hard, and deadly encounters. So it's a quick and easy reference guide that I use a lot. I use at all of my adventure building steps, just to refer back to quickly and easily. And I'm just getting all the setup done. Really look at that adventure day. So this is the Adventure Day Planner. It is also part of this whole campaign planning product. You can, again, if you're a patron, this is a free download on my Patreon page. You can print as many copies of these as you need. You can see here, I have printed enough for an entire campaign. That way I cover all of the campaign days for each level, for each tier. So I've got plenty of sheets that I can go through and just start scratching some notes on and start planning my day. And I'm going to real quick grab 2 reference books that I feel are super important in this stage. I'll be right back on screen. Now for me, the two most important books for this aspect, of course, Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual. I start with the basics, and then I can bring in and add in more details, whether it's out of Mordenkainen's or whether it's out of Volo's, whatever the case may be. I can bring in additional materials if I so choose. But for this aspect here, I really go through and look at some of the appendix. And your appendixes are great for a couple of reasons. If you're going specifically with a type of area, so hill, mountain, underdark, all of that is kind of listed in the appendix, so you can really narrow down the list of monsters that you want to use in your encounter building. And one thing to note is you don't have to do these encounters just based on combat encounters. So you can also do things like a trap can be an encounter. Some type of a aspect where you want to have them do, like a acrobatics escape out of a crumbling temple. That's an encounter. So the encounters don't always have to be combat based with monsters. I just started out that way so that I can decide what I'm going to do. Now the way this sheet is laid out is we have the data that we'll be putting on here. So what's the theme of the story, right? What's the environment? What's the party level? How many adventuring days are we looking at for that party level? And then any considerations that we want to do. These are just notes to myself. And then you can see it's broken down by type of encounter: deadly, hard, medium, and easy. So basically in an adventuring day, you want to have 6 medium encounters. Now if you take one of those mediums and decide you want 2 easy instead, that's just broken down. If you decide you want to have a deadly encounter, you can see that takes up a lot of space. So all of this would basically be off the table for you to use for an adventuring day. Try to make this really useful for me in how I plan out my encounter day. If you want to have 2 hard and that takes your deadly off, you can't afford a deadly and 2 hards, but then you could afford 2 mediums beyond that, a medium and 2 easies, or 4 easies. So it's all designed in being able to plan out how you want that adventuring day to go. So I'm going to start out just real simple and basic on this aspect of it, and I'm going to build out an adventuring day for our tier 1. And I'm just going to grab my resources and notes. I've got just my hand-drawn map, so I have reference to it, as well as my 1 page. And I'm going to be referring to these as I go through and start building out an adventuring day. And then we'll talk about the aspects of how I do it and why I do it, and then how I'm going to bring it up to the tier level and then the campaign level. So I'm looking at level 1. The local heroes. Your adventuring days generally for level 1, you're going to have 1 adventuring day before they move into level 2. So I'm going to put down here the party level is going to be 1. We're going to start out real simple. I'm going to have 6 players, level 1. Adventuring days, it's just going to be 1. So this sheet will come just by itself. Now if I have like level 4 to get to level 5 is 2.2 days. I would need 2 of these sheets for that. But this is just 1. So the environment is going to be coastal, urban, right? Because we're in a town. It's a small town, but it's still a town. But it's also coastal, so we can pull from those types of aspects. And then the theme that we set for this is vulnerability of the meek. So that gives me that drive of what do I want the theme to be. Something that is going to take advantage of the townspeople who are a little more meek than the capable adventurers. So any considerations that I want to put in here, I am actually going to call out, this is one of 4 adventures for tier 1. So I want these 4 adventures to tie together in some way, shape, or form. that is basically all the initial notes I'm going to put down on this. Now I'm going to refer to my CR rating chart, and I'm going to look at level 1, what quantity of, encounter foes do I have? What's the CR rating and number of CR rating? And I'm also at the same time going to be looking at my DM's guide by CR rating, because that's how I'm building these encounters, is by quantity of CR ratings. So I don't want to have a deadly encounter for this initial level 1. So I'm going to take deadly right off the opportunity. I don't want to have just one big encounter. But I could have hard, medium, and easy. So for hard, a hard encounter would be 5 1/4 CR foes, and that's a huge list. Huge list. So going through that list, we can start to dial down, and if we look at what are coastal or urban type of monsters by CR rating, does that help us? Because we know that environment. So let's look at coastal 1/4 and urban 1/4. We'll dial in on those two areas. So giant lizard, giant wolf spider, pseudo dragon, pteranodon, winged kobold on coastal. And then on urban, we've got a lot more. Acolyte, draft horse, giant centipede, giant poisonous snake, kenku, pseudo dragon, riding horse, skeleton, smoke mephit, swarm of bats, swarm of rats, swarm of ravens, winged kobold, tie in there, and a zombie. So let's see. I like the thoughts of zombie and I'm leaning a little more in urban. I'm liking zombie and the swarms pretty well. And kind of skeletons as well. So we have to think the first step, they are cleaning out either the canals or the sewers, one or the other. Let's build this one into thinking about the 4 of them coming together. I'm going to write myself some notes here. So something in the hills is affecting something in the woods, which is affecting something in the canals, which is affecting something in the sewers. Or maybe we reverse these. Something in the woods has left the woods and is seeking refuge from that storm, that initial storm that's going to drive the PCs together into the inn. They took refuge in the sewers, and that's affecting the canals. So it could be something for the canals first. So let's go with urban. We've got 1/4 is going to be a hard, so I'm going to choose a hard to start. I'm not going to do a deadly, and I'm only going to have 1 hard combat, and that hard combat is going to be 5 giant poisonous snakes. If snakes are getting into the canal and swimming around, it could be something where we have got to get the adventurers on little skiffs into the canal so they can get these poisonous snakes killed out. While doing that, they could venture. Yeah, I like that. Poisonous snakes. And I'm just going to put a note, swimming in canal, causing causing havoc to locals, because it is 5 of them, so there will be a total of 5 of them that they'll need to surf the canals, let's say, and find. So that's our hard. Because we've got that hard, we know these ones here are not going to be used, so that leaves us all of these ones to continue to do. So I'm leaning heavy into canals, so I'm just going to write canals adventure. Because I'm thinking of the canals I do want to do, I'm going to take out one of these mediums right off the bat and do a boating. And this is going to be a continued thing as they're boating around in these canals. We're going to set up a couple of challenges for them to do. So this one is going to be one, and then this one is going to be navigating. 2 checks that they'll have to do. So someone is going to have to man the boat, whether that's doing the oars or a pole or whatever. Someone's going to have to drive the boat, and then someone's going to have to steer the boat. So I'll need some type of a, maybe it's athletics check, maybe it's some type of thing. I'm going to leave that up to the players. How do you move the boat? And who's doing that? Who's controlling that? And how is everybody else helping so that we can lower that DC? Because initially, maybe they don't have a sailor background, so it's going to be a higher DC. Maybe they do have a sailor's background, so it'll be a lower DC, but we'll decide that together kind of at the table. But I know we're going to have a boating and a navigating encounter where they'll have to come up with something to, maybe there is a receding flood and they're getting sucked towards the sewers right into some type of a manhole thing for overflow from all the rains, and they have to use a boating thing. And then navigating as they're moving through the canals, utilizing some type of, maybe it's knowledge, maybe it's, who knows. There again, we'll set a thing where they have to find this group of 5 poisonous snakes. Who's going to be leading that charge, and how is everybody else going to be interacting with that person? So boating and navigating, these are going to be checks and checks. I do like the thought of water draining into the sewers. Looks like I've got, there we go. And messages are open, our chat is open, so if you do have questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate. Pop them into the chat. I'll be happy to make sure that we address those. Also, don't hesitate, give me ideas too. This is all community-based, and the more input that we get as we're building out the worlds and the stories and the persons that we're populating into our stories, the better it represents a wider swath of the community. So navigating checks, canals are unmarked. So finding the snakes. So that snakes, that's going to be the hardest challenge that the players have to contend with. 5 giant poisonous snakes coming up into the boat, trying to poison and kill them and bring them down into the water, into their nest maybe. Now we've got 3 easy and three mediums and a number of easies that we can populate. Now again, this is a level 1 campaign or adventure. I don't want it to be too short. I don't want it to be too long. I don't want it to be too deadly, but I do want to be challenging a little bit. So we've already got a hard encounter. Let's look at medium encounters. And according to my chart, we open up the gates here. We could have 2 1/2 CR. On the 1/2, there's crocodiles, giant wasps, shadow, swarm of insects, thug, warhorse. Trying to think. Moving through the canals, they're hunting these giant poisonous snakes. There are so many good things. I'm thinking crocodiles in the sewers from alligators in the sewers, that kind of thing. So does a crocodile make sense? That could be a pretty fun encounter as they are trying to maneuver around these canals after this storm. Crocodiles are up trying to get fed. But I do also kind of like the thoughts of giant wasps. Let's see, for that medium, that would be 2 giant wasps, 2 thugs. I do like the thought of thugs. These are merchants moving some black market goods. We'll have the PCs happen upon them, and these 2 thugs are trying to secretly move some black market goods. Now, these black market goods are not going to be legendary magical weapons by any means, but they'll be moving something illegally, trying to move something illegally, and try to make sure there are no witnesses, maybe trying to bribe. Who knows? Who knows how that adventure is going to go? But this is going to be 2 thugs who are merchants moving black market goods, or moving black market goods for merchants. Remember, this is about vulnerability of the meek. These thugs are taking advantage of the populace, the people, and the standards of their town by illegally moving some black market goods. So that could be a fun medium encounter. And with 2 of them, you know, you're looking at 6 PCs. It doesn't seem like very fair of a fight, but we've got lots of limitations already. They're going to be on boats. The thugs are definitely going to be fairly well armed and armored. They won't be able to, or it's going to be more difficult for them to take advantage of things like flanking, different aspects like that. So it is a pretty challenging encounter. It's not deadly by any means, but it's a good challenging encounter. Let's see, what else do we have for medium? We've got 7 1/8. That's bandit, cultist, flying snake, giant rat, guard, kobold, mastiff, mule, noble, pony, sturge. Ooh, sturge. Now it's not nighttime, but those storms, maybe the sturge is moved into the canals because of something pushed them out of the sewers. I do like that. Sturges. This is going to be 7 sturges because they are 1/8. These will be being pushed from the sewer level. Now we have to start thinking about some of the aspects. When are we going to set this up? For the sturge, we want to have them come out like at sunset. Maybe that's how we set this whole thing up, is this is going to be an evening adventure, evening into overnight. So it's still one adventuring day. It's going to take them a while to go through and do the hunt. By the time they get to this encounter, they have got the sun now down, and the frogs are croaking. We'll think of things like that as we build out as we flesh out the encounter more. And then one more medium. So one more medium. If we went with a level 0, I just want to look and see. Cat, commoner, goat, rat, raven. I'm going to go to coastal here a little bit just to double check the 1/8 as well. Bandit, bloodhawk, giant crab, guard, kobold, merfolk, poisonous snake, sturgy, and tribal warrior. Let's see here. If we go with 1/8 on a medium, we need 7. Bandit, cultist, flying snake. Oh, you know, I'm actually kind of leading toward cultists being the last encounter piece that we set. They're trying to make sure that the sewers have been cleared, and redoing one of the gates in and out of the sewers to make it more easily accessible for the cultists, because they've been driven out of the woods and into the sewers. I don't know. Let's see. I do like throwing cultists. We're looking at vulnerability of the weak. Someone taking advantage of the weak. And we need 7 of them if we go with the 1/8. That would be a pretty challenging encounter if you're looking at they have the high ground and the PCs are on the boats. That could be a good aspect to play that. Cultists. Cultists. Getting moved out of the woods and into the sewers. Taking advantage of, let's see here. So I'm just going to actually go ahead a little bit and look at my level 4 chart. And I just want to look and see for level 4, 2, 3 CR. Doppelganger, Knight, Face Spider, Veteran, Water Weird, Whites. Whites, Undead. I like that. Undead, Cult. I'm feeling Merkel, a Cult of Merkel, someone who is taking advantage of undesirables in the city, maybe, who they feel are undesirables, and worshiping Merkel. And they've unleashed something. Yeah, let's go with cultists. This is going to be, where are we at here? Level 1, we're going to look at 7 cultists. They are creating easy access from the sewers. To allow the cult to move more freely. So they're actually the kind of on the line in between that sewer aspect and the canal aspect. Well, I think it'd be cool to have the 2 crocodiles. I think this maybe we'll put 2 crocodiles in there instead. 2 crocodiles. Just as like a backup, seeing how everybody's accepting of some of the aspects. I just think with the snakes being the deadliest part, that's the... I don't want to overdo the beast aspect of it. I want to keep them on the track that this is all about the vulnerability of the meek. Though crocodiles attacking your canal ships, gondolas, I suppose, would be pretty challenging. It kind of goes hand in hand for me. I think either of those could be good. So we'll just put 2 crocodiles attacking gondolas. And then these easies we're not going to use. So there we go. We've got poisonous snakes. We've got a boating check, a navigating check. We've got a couple of thugs. We've got some sturge. We've got some either cultists or crocodiles who are harrying the city. All of these aspects are challenging to the city, and our patron, Renko, who's wanting security by summer and is having difficulty getting it using people because of all the storms, is going to put the characters on the way to clear out these canals. Something is going on. The canals are not safe for my people. They're the meek. They need help. So as the PCs take into the canals, they will have to contend with all of these aspects of adventure. And it doesn't seem like dungeon delving, anything like that, but I want it to lead them along a path. I want this to be them familiarizing themselves with the area, serving the patron, who is Renko, who is kind of taking them on as the adventuring party to clear out the canals, take care of all these aspects that are hurting the meek of the city. And then I want to start putting the drops, the breadcrumbs, if you will, of this is all happening because there is something going on in the sewers. And then the next part, I want them to explore the sewers themselves. All of this is coming out of the sewers because of, and there are some aspects we'll be able to do on that. Things like the Sturge, when they attack, we'll be able to show that they're coming out of an open sewage port. Same with if we do the cultists or the crocodiles, we can have them. Of course, the cultist is easier because they're working on, jimmying up something. I think that's a super easy way to go. And then we draw the players into the sewers after this level 1. So I'm really digging this. I think adventure-wise, how we want to set this up. We don't want to lead off with the hard encounter. So I think we'll start off with the boating. So that's going to be number 1. And the navigation check, number 2. Maybe. I do like the thought of that, them getting kind of their legs out under them, or their sea legs under them. And then at that point, as they're moving around, I want them to take on the thugs. And then as they're hunting around, looking for those snakes, I want them to find the snakes and have a deadly encounter, or a hard encounter. And then after that, just when they think the coast is clear, we're going to have the Sturge swarm. And then we'll end with the tie-in to the sewer proper. So that is going to be the layout that we're going to do. We'll use that to create our first adventure. And of course, to really tie it in and give good descriptions and everything, that's why we need our map, which we'll be working on. I have to prep up some paper first. I don't have any paper ready to go for me to actually create the map, so that's going to be my first step. But using the tools that we have, we can then go through and just pull out. Oh, I thought I had some monster sheets, so I do. So again, all of these materials that I'm using you can find on my Patreon. If you have questions about them, let me know as well. But as I'm creating the counter, I actually am going to use my encounter sheet. This is a quick and easy way for me to keep all of my stuff in one fell swoop so that I can then reference it in-game, have it right there. I have on the inside of my DM screen some magnets that I can put them to, or I can keep it on the table and adjust as I go. So I'll show you how I use this. I'm going to start with, we're going to keep with the cultists. Why not? So these are going to be cultists, and there are going to be 7 of them. So process-wise, I go into my book on page 345 of the Monster Manual. I've got the stat block of the cultists right there. You can see it kind of centered there. That's your stat block of the cultists. Rather than referring back to the book or using D&D Beyond, I'm able to do this, and this allows me to keep all of my notes here on one page. So these are going to be medium humanoid, and we're going to make these be evil. Armor class of 12. This is leather. And then hit points. Here is the interesting part. I do twofold. I do this average is 9 with a max of 16. So what I do is I set it at the max for each of them, and then I can whittle it down based on how my players are doing. I don't want it to be too tough. So I'm going to go through and do, I know I have 7, so I'm going to go ahead and do 7 cultists that I'm doing. And then on the table I can use markers, I can use miniatures, I can use dice, and as long as I know which are which, I can adjust their hit points as they're being hit, or any conditions, anything like that, right on the fly. We know their speed is 30 feet. Strength, they've got 11, so a plus 0. Dexterity is 12, plus 1. Constitution is 10, plus 0. Intelligence of 10. Wisdom of 11. And charisma of 10. And for skills, they have deception, plus 2, and religion, plus 2. They also have passive perception of 10. Languages, we'll do common. We do know their CR rating is 1/8. Now I'm not going to write down the XP because I'm using milestones, so I know how many encounters the players have to do before they go from level 1 to level 2. For me, that helps prevent murder hobos. They're not going to go and just start killing commoners to get XP. Now we do have the Dark Devotion, and this is advantage on saves versus being charmed or frightened. And then actions, they use a scimitar, which is a melee, and a +3 to hit, a 5-foot reach, 1 creature, and this does a 1d6 +1 slash. Of course, they have to be in melee range for them to be able to do that. So does it make sense for us to maybe give them a crossbow or something like that, or certain ones to have a crossbow? Possibly. That's something that we can decide later on. They don't have any special attacks. And then in the notes, this is where I go through and start to put back to my Dungeon Master's Guide, what are their treasures? And as we go through and look at the treasure tables in the DM's Guide, see, rather than flipping back and forth from book to book to book, having this all in one standard place is going to make the process of running through this encounter super fast and easy. I can quickly just make all of my adjustments right here. So for their treasure, we want to look at individual treasure. They're not in a horde. They don't have a horde going on here. And individual treasure, we know they're a CR 1/8 creature, so that gives us a good quick amount. I'm just actually going to roll the dice and see what I get, and that's what all of them are going to have. And that's going to be a 22, which means all of them are going to have 5d6, or an average of 17 copper. So that's what we're going to put, is 17 copper pieces each. Not a lot, not a lot. But they're the cultists. So there is one encounter already done. I can just, I've already made a star there because I went with it, but that's just basically marking that that encounter I have an encounter sheet for. I'm ready to go. I can have this on my DM screen, and then when it's time to play the cultists, I can pull it right down onto the table so I can adjust any hit points as I need. Look and see. Because they've got deception, I may have the encounter start out with cultists trying to create easy access to sewers, and then they'll claim they are city officials, guards, law of the city. They'll try to use that deception, and they're pretty good at it with a +2. But I'm hoping that the way they're dressed with their leather armor, some type of symbology on it possibly, because I want this to be the last encounter of the day, it's already dark, should raise a lot of red flags for my players. So one of the encounters already built. That leaves us 1, 2, 3 encounter sheets, and then 2 basic check pieces. Now these I won't use an encounter sheet for. I'm just going to come up with a little narrative blurb on what's going on and why this is an encounter aspect. So if I were doing a trap, it would be the same exact thing. I would not use an encounter sheet. I would just put some type of a blurb out there on what the trap is, what the effects are, and what's required to overcome or bypass or whatever. Simply because these ones here I want to be a little more fun and interactive. I want these to be kind of lighten the mood for the first adventuring day piece. As we start out, these are going to be the lighthearted moments where possibly they fall into the water and get all soaking wet. Possibly they crash into some type of a bridge pylon or something and scar up the pretty paint on this gondola that they're told to use for clearing these things out. Something that's going to be a little more lighthearted, bring some levity to the situation, and hopefully allow the players to have a little more RP aspects as they're starting out this adventure. Remember, this is a level 1. While my players know each other and everything, the characters don't. So I want them to really be able to utilize aspects like these to build some of their character stories and interactions with each other. So these two here as my starting point are all designed for character integration to the group and to the game world. So super important to have those ones just kind of be there. Let's see, we've still got a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep plugging along. I've got 3 other encounters to build. You can see it's not super difficult. They go pretty fast, but I am going to go ahead and build these encounters while I'm sitting down here with everything right out in front of me. This one is going to be Sturge, and there are 7 of these. These are being pushed from the sewer level. They are on the hunt. Which is something we can bring up into some of the discussions at the inn. All of a sudden there are a rash number of these attacks of being people found drained of blood, which may lead the players to think vampire or something like that. And then you pull out Sturge, and on the water in a gondola type boat, that to me is horrifying. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, that's to me is a horrifying thing. All right, so let's go to their stat block. 284 in the monster manual. There we go. Horrible, horrible creatures. I can tell you. These are horrible creatures. So these are tiny beasts and unaligned. Now their armor class is 14, and that's just natural. Hit points, they've averaged 2, and that's a 1d4. But what do? I give them the max. Because it's easier to take them down from this page than to add them up. So we're going to start them all out with 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. And their speed is actually going to be 10 feet or flying 40 feet. Now they're not very strong, but they're pretty dexterous. Constitution of 11. Intelligence, they are not smart, but they know when to get some blood. Wisdom, they're not wise, and they are definitely not charismatic. They do have dark vision of 60 feet. Passive perception of 9. Now they are a 1/8 CR. However, I am going to make sure, because these are beasts, they're not going to have any treasure. If it was in their lair, at that point I would have victims' treasure be there. But because they're out in the pursuit of blood, they're not going to have any treasure. So their actions, this is where it gets nasty. They have a blood drain. And what does that mean? This is a melee weapon attack. And this is +5 to hit with a 5-foot reach. One creature. And they get 1d4 +3 piercing, and the scourge is attached to the target. While attached, the scourge does not attack, but the target loses 1d4 +3 hit points due to blood loss. Now the scourge can detach itself after it drains 10 hit points, and the target dies, so whichever comes first. So I'll put a little note here: detaches after 10 hit points, blood consumption, or target dies. See, just pretty nasty, pretty nasty. And again, no notes. I do have, or no treasure. I do have a little bit of notes, but that's the scourge. which goes right before the Cultists. Now the next one is the Poisonous Snakes, which are giant poisonous snakes. And the same exact process, go into our DM's guide. Which is 327 in the monster manual. There we go. Boy, also pretty nasty creatures. These are 1/4 CR. All right. These are medium beasts, unaligned. Armor class 14. This is also natural. Hit points, they average 11 with 2d8 plus 2. Now we know we're going to have 5 of these. And that'll be 18 hit points apiece. Their speed is 30 feet and swim 30 feet. Pop in their abilities here. And pretty common stuff for these creatures. Skills, their perception is +2. Senses, they have blind sight, 10 feet. Passive perception, 12. No languages. And then actions, they've got a bite, which is a melee attack, which is +6 to hit, 10-foot reach. That's an important aspect. Remember, as we're doing that, one target. And then their hit is a 1d4 plus 4 pierce. Target must make DC 11 con save or 3d6 poison damage. So if they fail, they'll take that 3d6 poison damage. So here's an interesting aspect. We said level 1, you can already see the amount of damage that we're going to be doing. I have a lot of newer players, and even a lot of older players, who the first thing they want to do when they start an adventure, even a long campaign, the first thing they want to do is go to the shop and buy all the potions they can get. And I, for my magic aspect, use very close to the rules, so there isn't a whole lot to be had. So in my adventures, even though they're epic fantasies and everything, they are pretty challenging. You can see if you get hit, there's a lot of dice opportunity that can win or lose the aspect of your character's life. So pretty challenging encounters. This is one adventuring day. You know, we're going to start it in the evening and then run it into the night. So by the end of all of these encounters put together, you know, they should start out with this fun, kind of laughable experience, possibly some stories to swap and tell. By the end, they should be pretty beat up and need some downtime, need that long rest, and not be able to continue pressing on to the sewers. That's the goal, is I want them to want to recoup, get that long rest, and heal up, share some information that they found out while they're cleaning out these canals that leads them down into the sewers for the next level. So we're getting close here. Let's get this last one here. This is going to be 2 thugs. Thugs. And they are also here. Let's see, these are going to be medium humanoids. These ones, any non-good. So we'll say these ones are neutral evil. They're very selfish, taking advantage of people. This is going to be 11 leather armor. Their hit points, they've got an average of 32 or 5d8 plus 10. So we've got 1 and 2. We'll call these guys, well, this is Bob and Daryl. Bob and Daryl. So they're going to start with the highest of 50 hit points each. Pretty tough. Speed is 30. Strength of 15. Dex of 11. Constitution 14. Intelligence of 10. Wisdom of 10. Charisma of 11. Lots of zeros there. Lots of zeros there. And then skills, intimidation. Sensitive, passive perception. Which is going to be a 10. We'll have them speak common. We do know that they are 1/2 CR. That'll come into handy when we go for treasure. They also have pack tactics. Which means advantage on attacks. Against a creature if an ally, that means another thug, the other thug, is within 5 feet of target. And isn't incapacitated. Now for actions, they do have multi-attack. And that is a mace, which is a melee, +4 to hit, 5 feet, 1 target. And that does a 1d6 +2 bludgeon. And then they also have a heavy crossbow. That is also going to be +2 to hit, 100 and 400 foot range, 1 target. And then that does 1d10 piercing damage. And then going to a treasure table, because these are 1/2, they will roll on the same as the cultists. We got a 54. These ones actually will have 14 silver pieces each. So 28 silver pieces. Not too bad haul for our adventurers if they take out the cultists and the thugs and get the golds from them, or the riches from them, the treasure from them. So there is our first bones for our adventure. For our first adventuring day, level 1, this will get our PCs to level 2 with all of these aspects. Now all we need to do is write just a quick blurb on the adventuring day so we can set the scene, really describe the elements that the players are going to be exposed to through their characters, get the setup aspects for the couple of encounters that are just check based, not combat based, and start planning out how we're going to deliver this story for the characters to interact with. So super easy, not too challenging. I think it's again a great start to show my process and how that I build out my adventures. Next week, I think what we will do is I'm going to save that fleshing out, and hopefully by then we'll get the map created so we have that as a point of reference. We can look at where we want to put these encounters, and maybe the order that we put these into won't apply. We'll see as we build out the gaming area, the map, and how we kind of lay out the adventure for the characters to experience. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it was beneficial. I hope it was insightful. I hope it helped just drive some innovation and idea making and creative processing for you as well. Make sure you join me on Wednesday as we create a monster for a GM use. Maybe we'll create something for this campaign, who knows. And then Friday we'll be doing a review. Saturday in the studio doing more painting. Until I see you on the next stream, have a fantastic evening, and let us know where will your adventures take you.